It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. If you have always believed that everyone should play by the same rules and be judged by the same standards, that would have gotten you labeled a radical 60 years ago, a liberal 30 years ago, and a racist today. Each new generation born is in effect an invasion of civilization by little barbarians, who must be civilized before it is too late. If you are not prepared to use force to defend civilization, then be prepared to accept barbarism. The first lesson of economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to fully satisfy all those who want it. The first lesson of politics is to disregard the first lesson of economics. The word, racism, is like ketchup. It can be put on practically anything, and demanding evidence makes you a racist. It is a way to take people's wealth from them without having to openly raise taxes. Inflation is the most universal tax of all. If the battle for civilization comes down to the wimps versus the barbarians are going to win. If people in the media cannot decide whether they are in the business of reporting news or manufacturing propaganda, it is all the more important that the public understand the difference, and choose their news sources accordingly. The least productive people are usually the ones who are most in favor of holding meetings. What multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture in the world except Western culture, and you cannot blame any culture in the world except Western culture. You will never understand bureaucracies until you understand that for bureaucrats procedure is everything and outcomes are nothing. Too much of what is called education is little more than an expensive isolation from reality. The next time some academics tell you how important diversity is, ask how many Republicans there are in their sociology department. Education is not merely neglected in many of our schools today, but is replaced to a great extent by ideological indoctrination. It is amazing that people who think we cannot afford to pay for doctors, hospitals, and medication somehow think that we can afford to pay for doctors, hospitals, medication, and a government bureaucracy to administer it. Sometimes it seems as if there are more solutions than problems. On closer scrutiny, it turns out that many of today's problems are a result of yesterday's solutions. The more people who are dependent on government handouts, the more votes the left can depend on for an ever-expanding welfare state. Freedom has cost too much blood and agony to be relinquished at the cheap price of rhetoric. The march of science and technology does not imply growing intellectual complexity in the lives of greater than most people. It often means the opposite. Would you bet your paycheck on a weather forecast for tomorrow? If not, then why should this country bet billions on global warming predictions that have even less foundation? Without a moral framework, there is nothing left but immediate self-indulgence by some and the path of least resistance by others. Neither can sustain a free society. Talkers are usually more articulate than doers, since talk is their specialty. The welfare state is not really about the welfare of the masses. It is about the egos of the elites. Socialism in general has a record of failure so blatant that only an intellectual could ignore or evade it. What is ominous is the ease with which some people go from saying that they don't like something to saying that the government should forbid it. When you go down that road, don't expect freedom to survive very long. The big divide in this country is not between Democrats and Republicans, or women and men, but between talkers and doers. There are only two ways of telling the complete truth: anonymously and posthumously. The most fundamental fact about the ideas of the political left is that they do not work. Therefore, we should not be surprised to find the left concentrated in institutions where ideas do not have to work in order to survive. There are few things more dishonorable than misleading the young. Thomas Sowell. Thanks for watching. Like, share and subscribe for similar content.